Welcome. You're listening to episode 38 of Pause and Play, the Prevent-A-Vet podcast. On today's show, certified feline trainer and behavior consultant and friend of the show, Dr. Marci Koski is back, and we're talking about how to add another cat to your family in a way that makes your new cat and your established cat feel safe and comfortable. We go over Marci's preferred method for introductions step by step, how to ease into it, and what to do if things aren't going as well as you had hoped. Now, let's start the show. Welcome back to another episode of Pause and Play, the Prevent-A-Vet podcast. I'm your host, Mia, and I'm here with good friend of the show, feline training and behavior consultant, Dr. Marci Koski. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Mia. How are you today?
I'm doing great. It's been a long time since I've gotten to catch up with you. So I'm very happy to be able to speak to you today. What's been going on in your world?
Oh gosh, everything's just real busy. Meeting with clients. I'm giving some talks.
I guess, 2020, I can't believe that we are already kind of deep into it. I don't know where the time has gone. I'm already, thinking about next year's resolutions because I haven't been able to do anything this year. I haven't even had time to set goals. Although one goal might be getting a new kitty to bring in. My wife will not stop actually because she knows if she shows, it's what happened with our new dog or newish dog, Mabel. She just sent me a post, and same thing with our cat Mazel. So it might be time. I probably shouldn't actually commit that to recording, but
yeah, you said it might be time, which obviously means we're getting a cat this weekend. That's what I heard.
Well, you could hear that as long as you don't pass that information along to my wife. That's fine.
Okay.
But, a lot of people might be thinking about, bringing in, I feel like cats and dogs too are kind of like Pringles. Once you pop, you can't stop. So,
right.
And, people might think that it's more easy. In my mind, it seems like it would be more easy bringing a new cat into the home. But when I actually do sit down and think about it, maybe not.
Yeah.
So that's why I thought it would be great to talk to you about, doing things the right way and what you need to consider about if you're thinking about bringing a new cat into your household.
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of people bring home cats, and that's awesome. That's what I love to see. Let's empty out those shelters and rescue some kitties. And as a cat behavior consultant, probably about 75% of my clients have cats who are not getting along. And so
75.
Yeah. And then, there's overlap with house soiling issues because cats aren't getting along. That can amplify stress and territorial issues. And then that brings on other problems. So I'd say about 75% of my clients have cats that are not getting along. And that's usually because they brought home a new cat, and didn't think too much about the personalities of their existing cats.
Mm-hmm.
And then also they didn't do an introduction properly. So they just kind of put the cats together or, let them sniff each other. And then that was it. And then, maybe things are okay for a day or two and then not okay at all. So
you're saying that's not the way to go, just putting them together and saying, all right, there you go. Your friends
don't
forever.
Do that. And I'm on the extreme end of the bell curve. The people that I do see have cats who've, gone through some things and they have issues and they need help.
Right. So, people that aren't going through that probably aren't contacting you to see what the problem is.
Exactly. So, but what I like to do is educate people about what's really important to cats, especially when they're coming into a new environment or meeting a new cat, so that they don't run into these problems. So, if you start off on the right foot or the right paw, then you're not going to necessarily need help from a behavior professional like me. So I like to just try to educate people like, okay, here are some steps to do when you bring home a new kitty.
Awesome. Well, what are some of the, I guess there's probably some pre-planning that has to go into that too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So whether you are bringing home a new cat to a house with no other pets, or if you have a dog, a baby, 12-year-old kids, 3 rabbits, whatever you have in your house, it's really important to understand that a cat that you bring home, and this is kind of dependent on personality type as well, but moving can be very stressful for kitties. Some cats take weeks to adjust to a new surrounding, regardless of not, interacting with other cats. So I always recommend that before you bring a kitty home, you set up kind of a safe room in their house. And a lot of people call this base camp. So that can be your bedroom if no other pets have access to it. It can be a guest room. If you don't have a big place, a bathroom could even suffice.
I was going to say, I bet a lot of people, especially because, cats are thought to have take up less space and, whatever, that they're probably really, if you're going to be living in a studio apartment, a cat's probably, a good option, but I don't know about multiple cats. Right. But you're saying it's doable.
It's doable as long as you make sure that there are ample resources. And the cool thing about cats is that they don't think in terms of square footage like we do, which is a very 2-dimensional plane of existence. Cats think in 3 dimensions. So they are looking at shelves and, tables and cat trees and things that they can use to get up high. And that really increases the amount of usable space in the environment. But that's, we can talk about that in a little bit. But in terms of setting up a cat's base camp, like a landing pad, I don't prefer bathrooms, and it's not necessarily because of the size. It's because most bathrooms are created with hard surfaces that are easy to clean, and those surfaces have a hard time retaining scent. So when a cat goes into a place, it wants to be surrounded by its own scent. And so it's important to put out blankets and bedding and scratching posts and, a litter box, because all of those things absorb the cat's scent and help that cat feel like at home. So you can put all of those types of things in a bathroom, and that really helps. And actually, if you bring home a more shy cat or a small, a skittish cat, having them in a smaller area first can really be helpful, because that helps them know their surroundings. They can explore it and understand okay, I'm safe in this area. And then what you do is you gradually open up various parts of your house to explore. Now, some cats are going to be way more outgoing than others. Some cats are going to be really shy. So with the shyer cats or the more fearful cats, you want to just let them take their time. I've known people who bring home a cat and the cat stays under the bed for 3 days. And please don't give up on that cat.
Right. Yeah. I mean, think about yourself, being rehomed into,
I know
a
lot of these cats, think about it. If you get a cat from a shelter, how crazy is the shelter environment for a cat?
Yeah.
It's usually, there are many types of shelters out there, but generally speaking, cats are housed in kennels with a ton of other cats around them. They hear things, they see things, they smell things that are all foreign and scary. And then they come into this new home, which may be a calmer environment, but they still need to figure out what's going on. And then that's not even to say what situation actually brought them into the shelter in the first place.
Right, exactly.
So there's been so much change that these cats have to deal with, going from a previous situation to a shelter to a new home. So if you have a cat that's hiding, what you can do is set out very intentional hiding spots. So block off access under the bed or behind a bed with pillows and cushions and stuff, and put out cat cubbies. You can use cardboard boxes. You can put a blanket draped over a chair to make a little hidey hut. There's a paper bag type tunnel that I like a lot. It's called the hide and sneak.
Uh-huh.
And cats
Does it sound like kind of crinkly paper?
It does. It's paper, like kind of like a paper bag, but it has solid ends with a hole on each end so the cat can go through. And I like that paper because it can absorb scent. It's fun for cats to play in. They're inexpensive. They're only like $12 or something. But I've had a couple that have lasted a couple of years, and I have 4 pretty rambunctious cats. So, they're great, and you can move them all over the place. So setting out intentional hiding spots is really important in base camp, especially if you have more of a scaredy cat. Because if you set out intentional hiding spaces, that cat is going to feel safe. And it's also going to allow you to monitor how that cat is doing a little bit better than if the cat is just under the bed.
Right. Yeah.
And if your cat is under the bed, don't go in there, try to pull him out. That's going to be very scary and create a negative association with you. But do make sure that the cat is eating and using the litter box and stuff like that. So, that's kind of the minority of the situation. Most cats, you can let out of base camp to explore, and they're usually fine. They want to check things out and, get into trouble and stuff. So, yeah.
Hopefully not too much trouble.
Not too much trouble.
Yeah.
Then you call me.
Now, so I think we got maybe a little ahead. And, because it's exciting thinking about bringing a new cat home, obviously, and stuff that you can buy for it. I mean, like, I can't even tell you how many like little those mushroom bed kind of a things we have for our cat Mazel. I mean, he has the most things for himself out of everybody in the house.
Yeah.
Let's say you have a cat at home already, and an established cat. We'll use Mazel as an example, my 3-year-old. If I think it's time, like, is there something that I should be, like, for example, we had somebody write in to ask about bringing a new dog home, and they were wondering, should I get the same breed as my current dog? And I don't know if that would even, I don't know if there would be an equivalent type of a question on a cat side, besides the fact that, like, obviously cats have different, I'm learning more and more about it, but cats have different temperaments and different and breeds and playing styles and stuff like that. So I guess how important is that to think about when introducing a new cat home?
Okay, so that's a great question. And I think it's really important to think about your existing cat before bringing home a new cat. A lot of times what happens is a family will have multiple cats, and then, as they get older, the kitties die, which is really sad. And then they look to bring home a new cat for any remaining cats. But they often bring home a kitten.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
so you might have a kitten matched up with a senior cat.
Mm-hmm.
And you can really run into problems in a scenario like that, because a kitten is, let's face it, kittens are adorable little monsters.
Yes.
I've had some really adorable kitten monster clients lately. And they want to play, and that's really all they care about. Meanwhile, you have this 10, 11, 12-year-old cat who is like not quite as into playing, maybe just lost a good friend, is set in their way. They have a specific personality. And a lot of times that isn't a good match. If you want to do something like that, if you are intent on getting kittens, I recommend getting 2 so that they entertain each other.
Yeah.
And they can leave the older cat alone.
Yeah.
And
hopefully, right?
Yeah. But generally speaking, here's what I recommend. Look at your existing cat. Try to match a new cat in terms of, first of all, energy level. You don't want a big mismatch in the amount of energy that the cats need. And then, temperament, personality type, those should be kind of similar. A lot of people think like, oh, if I have a male, should I get a female, or can two females get along together? And
I definitely had that question, because I know like on the dog side, Marshall really does best with female dogs and not males. So
right. It's been my experience that after cats are spayed or neutered, the hormonal thing isn't that much of a, like it doesn't really impact how well cats are going to get along together. To me, it then comes down to personality type. So gender is kind of, to me, takes a backseat. I've heard, oh no, two females have a harder time getting along. I've heard, oh, two males have a harder time getting along. But you know what? I've seen all different types of cat families that get along just fine together. So to me, it's all about personality type. I do recommend that, you try to stay within a similar age with cats. And I love when people adopt adult cats and older cats, because their personalities are set. You know what you're getting. Whereas a kitten is like a ticking time bomb. You never know what you're going to get when it's going to go off. Don't get me wrong. I love kittens. I love kittens so much, but they're adorable. The most adorable things on the planet, aside from maybe baby goats. But
there you got the baby goats in.
Got the baby goats in. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the type of cat you should be bringing home.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm glad that you brought all that up, because that's definitely, that was top of mind for me too, the gender, the age. Because, I was thinking that maybe it would be easier to bring a kitten in just because, and if, this is me, that's not hard to say at all. Anthropomorphizing the cats, but thinking that it would be more of like a maternal or paternal instinct. But like, I don't know if I don't know what Mazel has.
I'm definitely, so I think when you do, here's the trade-off. I think when you do bring home a kitten, they can be a little bit easier to introduce to other cats, because with kittens, I think their tendency is to just want to play. Adult cats are a little bit more interested in protecting their resources, making sure that their territory is intact. And so they're going to be both, if you have two cats, they're going to both be more interested in, protecting their stuff first. And getting to know the other cat. And whereas kittens, at least one side of the equation is more interested in like, hey, let's play. And that's
let me swat that tail.
Yeah, that's a huge generalization. And like I said, there are good ways and bad ways to introduce cats. And you can, get good results using either method, all methods, all combinations, but things can go really wrong for a number of reasons too.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess let's jump right into the proper introductions, because you only get one chance to make a good first impression, right?
That's true. Fortunately with cats,
they're better than we are. They give more chances.
Yeah. They don't hold grudges like people do. And cats live in the moment. That's not to say that you can do something to a cat and then the cat's not going to learn to dislike you.
Well, I should hope so.
Another cat, but they live in the moment. They don't do things out of spite or revenge or anything like that. So if you mess up during an introduction or even a reintroduction, that's okay. People make mistakes. Good to know. Cats make mistakes. I see it all the time. I do it myself. We're only human and feline. So if a mistake happens, just step back, go back to the previous step or the previous, the day where you were before. You're going to have good days and bad days in an introduction. But generally speaking, you want progress to increase and go better. But it's going to be kind of up and down. It's going to be bumpy,
Well, I think that that's actually a really interesting way to talk about it, because when you think about an introduction, you think about it as being a one and done. But that really is something that we have to get rid of, because that introduction, this type of introduction has to last a while, right? To be done properly.
Yeah. And the crazy thing about introductions is that there's no set timeline. It really depends on the cats that are involved. So I'm very hesitant to say, oh, after 3 days you do this, and after a week you do that.
Right.
Because you're really going to be moving at the pace of your slowest cat, or the cat who's more hesitant, more reactive.
So you really got to meditate into
You have to
into feeling what they're feeling.
Exactly. You have to be really observant and understand cat body language. And when you see signs of stress or agitation, that's when you go, okay, let's pull back just a little bit and end things. We're going to try to end things on a good note.
Right.
That's really important, ending things on a good note. And then you step back, and then you wait until either, a different part of the day or the next day to continue working with your cats. I've had cat introductions where they take like 2 days, and then I've had cat introductions or reintroductions that take months. So in problem cases, a year. So cats can really take a long time. I mean, think about how you would be like if you're in your home and if like your wife brought home another roommate and is like, hey,
that would be a problem.
With you. And by the way, they're going to eat our food and go to the bathroom. And what do you think about that? You wouldn't be all like, oh, sure, come on in. You'd be like,
as long as they're staying in the guest room, I'd be okay with it.
Yeah. Stay in the guest room, buy your own stuff.
Yeah.
Leave already.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same way with cats.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, where do you start, I guess, with that? Because is there... Yes. I mean, you don't just like come home and I did the wrong way with Marshall and Mazel. It turned out okay anyway, just because they're amazing. But yeah, I went more of like let's open Mazel's carrier and let him explore, and Marshall's out here too. So, but yeah, don't do that, I guess.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, people have been doing that with cats for a long time, and a lot of times people get fortunate. I like to err on the side of caution.
That's a good way to go. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to err on the side of caution. Like you initially said, you only get one chance to make a first impression. So let's just try to start out on the right foot. Okay, so when you bring home a cat, you want to immediately put that cat into their base camp, right? So again, it's all about helping the cat feel confident and safe in their base camp. So you want to make sure that they have a good sense of their own territory in that base camp. And if you can help it, you're not going to let the resident cat into that cat's base camp, because that's their safety zone.
Right.
So until the cats are getting along, you want to maintain that as like a safe place for the new cat.
Do you want to try to get rid of the other cats? Like, do you want to move the other resident cat stuff out to make, like, would that?
Yeah. Like if the resident cat has stuff in there, like, toys or bedding and stuff, you want to move that out of the base camp room, because you want your resident cat to be comfortable too. You don't want to cut off access to.
Right. No, of course.
So, you want to make everybody as comfortable as possible. I mean, if you have something big in there, like a cat tree that's not going to like move, and it has the resident cat's scent on it, that's fine. Keep that in there, because let's face it, they're going to smell each other. And that's actually the first step in the introduction process.
Getting those good smells in.
Yeah. Scent is hugely important for cats when it comes to figuring out who's friends and family, and who's not. And this all goes, okay, so what we're basically talking about, and me and I were talking about this earlier before we started recording, introductions, whether you're introducing to another cat or a dog or a baby or a rabbit or whatever, you want to use counter conditioning and systematic desensitization together.
Those are fancy words.
Yeah, they're fancy words, but simple concepts. Basically, counter conditioning is when you pair a good thing that a cat likes with something that might be scary or not liked, so that the scary or disliked thing becomes not so bad. They're like, oh, whenever I'm around this thing, good things happen to me, so that thing must not be so bad. Mm-hmm. That's counter conditioning. Systematic desensitization simply increases the level of exposure to a scary or bad thing at incremental levels, so that the comfort level of the cat, let's say, is it increases as you're moving slowly enough along the exposure gradient that the cat is feel comfortable.
You're not like going over their threshold. You're just kind of you're making sure that you stop before then in increments.
Yeah, and you're kind of building up that tolerance level. But threshold is a good word. And then when you pair counter conditioning and desensitization together, each step of the way along that exposure gradient, you're giving that cat good things and good things and good things and good things. So they're learning that, oh, the more I get exposed to this other thing, good things are happening. So like, hey, we're all good here. This is fine. I like this. This is great. And if we bring that back to cat introductions, and you think of an exposure gradient, scent is going to be kind of lower on, it's going to be one of the first smaller parts of that exposure gradient. And then it's going to be like, sight, let's bring in the sight of another cat. That's increased exposure. And then, maybe we're in the same room with that other cat. That's more exposure. And then at the end of the exposure gradient is, cats are out together all the time, unsupervised, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So with scent, what I like to do is, and this is not a magic introduction technique that I developed in any way possible. It's just this introduction procedure has been around for a long time.
It's just the tried and true method.
Yeah, it's the tried and true method. And the thing that I really like to emphasize, which sometimes others do not in terms of the way things move along, is the counter conditioning aspect of it. So pairing something that the cats like with each interaction. So like I said, always ending on a good note. Mm-hmm. You always want to make sure that an interaction ends with a cat having something positive. Mm-hmm. So scent. What you can do is scent swapping, and you can swap pieces of bedding. So like a cat bed that either cat is using, just change that over into the opposite cat's area and leave some treats in the bed for those cats to find. You can also take a sock or two clean socks, I would say, two clean socks, put them on your hands, and then take your hand and rub each cat's cheek and forehead area. Those are where the friendliest pheromones are on a cat's body, but it also has their individual scent on it as well. And so each sock is going to have the scent of each cat, and then you swap socks and leave those socks for the cats to smell, put some treats near them, and if they are eating them just fine, then great.
I could just imagine like being in my living room with two socks on my hands, like rubbing cat faces, and somebody walking in being like,
what's going on?
What are you doing?
What's going on here? Yeah. Another thing that cats do when they live together in groups is there's an allo groomer, and she goes around and she grooms all the cats, and they all kind of smell the same after being groomed by the same cat. So in the case where two cats are being introduced to each other, I recommend that the person, the guardian, takes on that allo groomer role. Fortunately, they don't have to lick their cats. That's hairballs and all that stuff. So especially during shedding season. So take just a regular soft bristled hairbrush, like for a human, or even a baby. So it's not something that you're going to be trying to get fur out using, or it's not going to be a flea comb. It's not going to be a wire brush, but just something that's going to absorb the scent of the cat. And you're going to, again, stick to the face, because most cats like their faces being brushed. But generally I say stick to the front half of the body. And if a cat doesn't want to be brushed, don't force it on them, because that can be a negative. If you try to force a brush on them. That brush you're going to use on both cats. And the way you're going to do it is you're going to let the cat smell the brush. Then you give them a treat. Then you brush just a couple of times around their face. Give them a treat. Let them smell. Brush. Treat. End it.
And I'm guessing this is like one cat at a time. Like,
absolutely.
Like the other cat isn't watching this happen.
Right. We still have the cats
separated.
Totally separated.
Yeah. Okay.
Totally separated. And in fact, a lot of people go, oh, well, my cats like to bat each other from under the door. I always say put a draft stopper underneath the door, because if you have cats that are left to their own devices and they're batting at each other, it could be play, but it might not be.
Right.
And at this point, you want to manage every single interaction that these cats have so that you can make sure it's either positive or neutral.
Right.
Because if you don't have control over their interactions, they can be bad. So draft stoppers are something that I recommend a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Anyway, so you have this brush. If the cat doesn't want to be brushed, you just leave it in near where that cat hangs out with some treats. So a lot of people go, yeah, my cat had zero reaction to the smell of the other cat. What do? Do I move on? Hey, that's up to you. I usually like to give it a few days, because even if the cat has no problem with the scent of the other cat, what I like to do is make sure that they're building a positive association.
Right.
So instead of just being neutral, like, nah, whatever, then I like it to build up a little bit more so it's positive. And I should say that it doesn't have to be treats that you use to build that positive association, because we would have a lot of chubbo cats running around. Is like have treats. Treats are good because they're easy and they're effective, but they only work if a cat likes treats.
Right.
And a lot of cats aren't food motivated, or their motivation level or fear is higher than their desire for treats.
Right.
So you can also use things like petting if your cat likes to be petted, praise, a toy, anything your cat loves can be used as positive reinforcement.
Mazel loves it all.
Yeah. Some cats are like that. And some cats hate everything. Those are the cats to work with.
I hear about those cats all the time. I just feel very lucky.
So do I.
Well, you probably experience it all the time. What am I talking about?
What is your cat like? Nothing. Shoot, this is going to be tough.
He just knocks everything off of everything.
My cat hates everything. Yeah. So that's like a scent introduction. But then we move on to the visual introduction. And this is where things get fun. And this can be a little bit complicated depending on your setup. But basically, you want to use food to get the cats basically in the same area so that they can potentially see each other across a barrier. And generally speaking, cats enjoy food, sustenance. So using that to build up those positive associations with the visual sight of another cat is helpful.
So like what kind of tools, I guess, would you use for that? Like, let's say that we're in the studio apartment.
Okay. So a studio apartment is going to be a little bit different. But in a studio apartment, I'm assuming that you have at least a bathroom and maybe your base camp is in the bathroom. So you can do a couple of different things. So there's just the door, which you would set your cat's bowls as far from the door as possible. I mean, not like 20 feet,
right.
but maybe you have 10 feet on one side and 4 feet on the other side if the cat's in the bathroom. And you want to get your cats used to eating on either side of the door without the door being open at all. Mm-hmm. So I usually recommend, because the other cat knows the other cat's out there on the opposite side of the door. So
you're not fooling anybody.
I know, you're not fooling anybody. So I usually say, try to get the cats to about 2 feet on either side of the door. You never want to have cats, even cats who are best friends, eat too close to each other, because that can trigger some resource competition. So keeping cats' bowls separate from each other is a good thing all the way around. Some people will try to put bowls right up against the door, and I'm like, no, don't do that. Let's just keep this comfortable for everybody.
Right.
So at least 2 feet on either side of the door. And then when they're fine eating in those locations, because sometimes they're new, then you want to, as the cats are eating, just open the door an inch, let the cats and it might only be for 5 seconds or 2 seconds or 1 second.
Yeah.
The cats see each other and then shut the door. And if the cats keep eating, fantastic. If the cats look up, see the other cat, and then go back down to eating, that's what you want. That is the perfect ideal scenario. This is where you need to start paying attention to body language.
Right.
Too. Because if you start to see ears flattening, tails getting puffy, hissing or growling, those are things.
Right, hissing and growling are probably pretty.
Those are a big tip off. Yeah. If those things start happening, you close the door. And hopefully the cats will go back to eating. If they don't, move the bowls back a little bit, make sure they eat. If they don't go back to eating, put a very favorite treat in their bowl so that they eat. Yeah. You really want them to, like I said, end on a good note. And sometimes you need to really figure out what that favorite treat is going to be, because maybe that's all that they will do.
Yeah.
And another thing to help is if you free feed your cats, I would suggest taking up their food bowls about 3 hours before you do an interaction like this, so that they're actually hungry and they're going to come to the door, to eat.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. Because if your cats have access to food all day and you're trying to set up this interaction, they're going to be like, I'm not doing that.
Right.
I just
There's
ate.
No payoff. Right.
Exactly. So you want to use hunger in your court. Yeah. So basically you're going to open the door a little bit wider and a little bit wider and a little bit wider for longer periods of time. Now, there is an issue with this. If you get the door open too wide, there's a potential for one cat to jam through, and then you have a cat fight, and then it's bad. So what I love using rather than doors are baby gates.
I had no idea, as somebody that does not have children, how many baby gates I would end up buying as an adult.
Oh my God. So pro tip, don't get the wooden baby gates that you have to step over. Plus, those have kind of grids on them that cats can climb up really easily.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, don't get those. What I recommend are those like metal gates with just the vertical bars.
That's what
and then
we've
there's
got.
Like a step through. Like there's like a little door that's a step through. And the next question is going to be, well, Dr. Marci, my cat could easily jump over that.
I do think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do too. And that's why I have this answer. Get a second baby gate and put it on top of the first baby gate. And the key here is to flip the top baby gate upside down so that you can open the step-through gate on both of them and walk through without a bar in the middle.
That's brilliant. Yeah. That's brilliant. Mind is blown. But it's so funny because I actually saw on Facebook the other day, somebody posted a picture of their cat sitting on top of what would have been the second baby gate. But for some reason, there was no baby gate on the bot. So it just, it looked like the only baby gate they had up was
the tall one.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I don't know what that's working for, but like.
I think that was probably, here's what happened. Here's exactly what happened. the cat was like, screw this, and knocked down the bottom baby gate, and then was like, I can totally get over this top baby gate. Look at this.
I got
Bam.
That's right.
And he just did it to show off. That's what I think happened.
I think you're absolutely correct.
Yeah, cats are big show offs. And yeah, I've had clients whose cats can scale to baby gates, but generally speaking, this is a system that works for most people and most cats. And the thing I like about baby gates is that, yes, it protects, so you don't have to have like a door like just wide open with nothing in between the cats. Plus, it's really easy to manage the visual exposure because you can drape a blanket or a towel over that bottom baby gate and just draw it back like a magician and then close it. John Lovitz, when he's like the devil, he just, like, draws it back.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, then it's a little bit easier to control the visual exposure. And I highly recommend going, okay, for levels of visual exposure, all right, this next session is going to be 5 seconds or shorter. Then it's going to be 10 seconds or shorter. Then it's going to be a minute or shorter. And you can always end a session before it's time, especially if you notice those body language cues or the vocalizations. End it so that you can end on a good note. What I don't want you to do with either visual exposure or the next step is to go, oh, things are going so well, I just decided to let's just see what happens.
Right.
Okay, well, right. Mia, let me ask you a question. What always happens at the end of a let's see what happens session?
Probably blood.
Yeah, something bad happens. Something bad happens. If things are going good and then you just want to see what happens.
Yeah.
When you end that session, it's because something bad has happened.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
not advised.
Yeah. Yeah. Always have a plan in place. Always have a plan for how long that session is going to be, what you're going to do to make it positive, and how you're going to end it. That's what you need to do. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that sounds easy enough.
Oh, it sounds so easy.
I mean, should you have a plan in place though for like if things aren't going well? Like...
Yeah. Okay. So if things aren't going well, like say, the cats can eat in front of each other, but as soon as one of them is done, then hissing and growling ensues. What you can do is maybe incorporate food puzzles to make the feeding last a little bit longer, or to increase the fun factor, or using a favorite food or those really high value treats. And again, this is all about repetition so that you build a sense of safety, a sense of trust, and a sense of positive vibes. So increasing those positive associations can really take a lot of time, especially if one cat is reactive or sensitive to other cat. So patience and persistence is going to be your key. Recognizing that there's going to be good days and bad days, and that bad days happen, and that's fine. I mean, I know I get grumpy sometimes.
I never do, ever.
Sometimes I don't want to meet people either. I hiss at people. Get out of my face. Yeah. So anyway, the feeding across barriers seems to be the sticking point with a lot of people. And so I would say just keep at that. That is a very important piece. End things if you think things are going south, end before they start turning bad, and try to end on a positive note. You can always step back, move the bowls further back, and move slower. And then once you get to the point where the cats can eat a full meal in front of each other, fully exposed, with no blanket or anything over the baby gate, then you are ready for the next step, which is supervised interactive sessions.
Finally.
Yay. And this is cats being in the same room together. And at first, these sessions are going to be very short. I recommend having 2 people help you or more than one person do this because you have 2 animals and you want to be able to keep them safe. So when you get prepared for an interaction session, again, you want to decide how you're going to make this positive, how long the session is going to be, and how you're going to end it.
Right.
And if you have those 3 things worked out, you should be good. What I recommend is always having some form of sight blocker at your disposal, whether that's a pillow or a big piece of cardboard or a box top to a storage container. Have something that you can put between the cats, not only if they like actually come into contact with each other, but even if there's like direct staring. Mm-hmm. Direct staring is the first step in the prey sequence.
Okay. Yeah.
So sometimes you want to block that off. You don't want one cat treating the other cat like a prey item. So,
no.
Even if the cats are across the room from each other, stand between them or put a sight blocker between them so that, you have time to redirect the staring cat to a fun activity that will maybe satisfy that predatory urge if that's what your cat is feeling like. So have a sight blocker. Then you're going to have 2 activities for the cats to enjoy. And that can be either the same thing or different items for each cat, depending on what those cats like. So maybe one cat really likes a wand toy. Maybe another cat likes a food puzzle. I generally recommend, at least starting off, that these are kind of calmer activities because some cats can get freaked out if another cat's like jumping around and chasing after something.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm a huge fan of food puzzles because you can put them in different parts of the room. Cats are usually engaged. Not every cat is going to like a food puzzle. So you can even just do treats, or food just in a regular container or your hand or whatever. But these sessions are going to be short at first, and then you're going to end the session by putting one cat in their safety zone. And then as things go moving along, hopefully well, then you can increase the length of those visual interaction or physical interaction sessions. And again, never just go, okay, I just wanted to see what would happen because things were going so great. Always have a plan for how long it's going to be. And then even if things are going great, fine, great. End the session, do another one later.
Yeah, keep it great.
Yeah, keep it great. Keep it great. So, and then, at some point, and there's no formula for this, so I can't say, well, at, the 4th time you do this, let the cats touch noses, and then you want to separate them, and it doesn't work.
It sounds like that would be really hard to do, too.
Yeah.
Force them to touch noses.
I know. I mean, the cats are going to want to approach each other and check each other out. This is where it's super important to keep tabs on that body language because you want the cats to sniff each other and check each other out, but be right there with a sight blocker so that you can put them in between. If one cat starts growling or something like that, you want to keep everybody safe.
Which also I should say, people listening to this obviously can't see the illustration behind your head right now, but I can, and it's a great cat body language illustration done by Lily Chin, who also has a dog one, and it's fantastic. So I'll make sure to include that in the blog post for this episode.
Yes, absolutely. So anyway, those sessions will get longer and you'll need less supervision as they go on. And then everybody's happy. Yay, the end.
Sure.
But no, generally, I mean, it's just during those interaction sessions, you begin to figure out what your cat's like. They start to understand their limits. You do have to cut the cord a little bit. There are some ways, if you have one cat that is just so persistent, and what usually happens is one cat really wants to play with the other cat, in a lot of cases that I see. So there are some intermediate steps, like you can teach one cat to wear a harness, and keep the cat who's more prone to chase or want to play, you can keep that cat reined in just a little bit. You can also use a large kennel to keep the more confident cat in so that the other cat can explore around and check that other cat out. The caution I would have with both of those things, whether it's the harness or the kennel, you want to make sure that the cat who is being, is in the harness or in the kennel has positive associations with both of those things.
Right. Yeah.
And that you
don't want them to feel punished.
Right. Exactly. I mean, you want to if you're going to use a kennel, you set that kennel up with the cat's favorite things in it, a bed, put a blanket over it so that's like a little cave, and
probably hang some little toys in there too.
Hang some toys in there, poke, use a wand toy to poke with, play with them in there. And you're going to want to use the harness and the kennel at times other than when the new cat comes out, or the more fearful cat, I should say,
right,
comes out, because you don't want the harness and the kennel to be specifically associated with another cat that might not be
right
so positive at this point.
Yeah.
So that's really important to note. One thing I want to backtrack just a
Sure.
quick second. So with the scent swapping and creating that group scent, I usually recommend that you continue to create that group scent. Try working on that, brushing twice a day for about a week, and then once a day for a week, and then every other day for maintenance.
Just keep those socks on your hands,
you need to brush after the socks. You have to do everything with socks on your hands. Until your cats are friends and can hang out peacefully together. And you might even want to still work on creating that group scent until you notice them grooming each other. Not all cats are going to do that, but that's important. And then when you've started doing the group scent stuff and doing some scent swapping, and then even through the rest of the introduction process, I always like to let the cats swap areas so that they can really get a good sense of the other cat's smell. And definitely, like, if you have your new cat in a bedroom or a bathroom or something, you want that cat to come out and explore the rest of the home before he meets the other cat, because you want him to feel confident where the introduction is taking place. Like, if that cat needs to find a place to hide and hang out, you want him to have scoped those things out before that new cat comes on the scene.
Right.
Or the resident cat comes on the scene. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm just thinking, cause we've talked about like litter box issues in the past and stuff. And, so obviously when you bring a new cat into your home, you also need to up your litter box game.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important though, because something that I learned on the last time we spoke was, you shouldn't have even if, let's say you've got the two litter boxes and one uses one and one uses the other. And, you should always have a third one as well. It's how many cats or how many litter boxes you need, and then plus one.
Generally, that's true. And that's because some cats don't like to share with other cats when it comes to using the litter box. And some cats like to poop in one box and pee in another box.
Mazel likes that.
Yeah. So, and one cat, they might just have different preferences in location. So if you put your litter boxes in the same spot, it's always good to have another location that you're using for litter boxes anyway. We can talk about litter boxes. I can talk about litter boxes.
I know, but I want to be mindful of the time. That's the only problem. There's so many things we got to talk about, Marci.
We covered litter boxes and house soiling issues in depth in those other two.
I'll link back to those as well. But it just strikes me as, the reason I bring it up is that, you gotta, I'm thinking that that's a very vulnerable place. And so you want to make sure for the new cat and the old cat that they have, I'm just thinking that it would be extra important maybe not to have the litter boxes right next to each other for this type of introduction. Yeah,
absolutely. And another question I get from people is, if we swap areas for the cats, do we need to swap their litter boxes too? No. No.
Okay.
Let those litter boxes be where they are, because in the wild,
clean them regularly anyway, right?
Absolutely. Yes. In the wild, cats use their toileting areas as kind of like message boards or bulletin boards. Oh, who's been here? When was the last time they were here? What,
Yeah, it's like the original Foursquare.
Exactly.
I checked in.
MySpace.
Right.
Yeah. So having a litter box there for another cat to check out is another way to let them get to know the other cat.
Sure.
So you don't need to swap litter boxes.
I was also thinking kind of along the same lines of scent swapping and, the whole needing a new litter box. Would it be important, I guess, to make sure that the new cat has its own blanket, its own bed, so that it can get its scent all over it, and then but also I guess I'm also interested in like toys. What about that kind of stuff?
Right, absolutely. So super important for a new cat to have something that they can leave their own scent on. So bedding, blankets are all great. Scratching posts are really important because not only are they great to stretch and keep those, shed those old claw sheaths, and maintain their nail health. But scratching is a really great way to leave a scent marker behind too, because cats have scent glands on their paw pads.
Mm-hmm.
So that will also give them a sense of security. Toys can be really fun. So catnip toys, I am a fan of. One thing to note about catnip is that sometimes it can cause cats to be a little bit aggressive. So if you're trying to introduce new cats to each other, I would say keep the catnip separate. Keep the catnip out of the picture when the cats are together, because you don't want them to get aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes with like Silvervine or, anything like that might cause playfulness or exuberance with cats.
Caution, might cause playfulness.
Yeah. Those soft toys like kicker toys are really great because they can help a cat, let off some steam, and then it also absorbs scent as well. And for both cats, really diving into active play sessions each day, of course, separately, is going to help them reduce stress and get out those predatory urges. A lot of cats who are introduced to each other, one cat wants to play and, it's basically acting like a predator towards the other cat, and that's not appropriate.
Right.
So you need to give them an outlet for that predatory behavior. So play with a really good wand toy. I always recommend the bird with various lures. Doing that before an introduction session and providing like a small treat or a meal can help get that cat into like the hunt, eat, groom, sleep sequence. And you can use that in your favor when introducing cats. So.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What else did I miss? I mean, like, I just want to be cognizant of the time because I know you've got to run to a client.
Yeah.
But I know that we could also talk about this all day. So
yeah, introductions can be a tricky thing. And so a lot of what we discussed is what I go over with my clients. I think that if you're having problems, one thing that I do like to address is, what if cats are just not a good fit for each other?
Right, yeah. It's an important question. It's one that you hope you don't face, but it's an important question to ask.
Right. But I still want people to have it in the back of their minds that like, okay, this might just not be a good fit, because I've known people who keep cats separated for years. And if you have a living environment where you can do that and that both cats are safe and happy and healthy and they both live full lives, that's great. Go ahead. However, there are some homes where the cats barely tolerate each other, or when they come next to each other, there's fighting all over the place. And if you're having a situation where either you don't have the time to put into a reintroduction, the cats you're not seeing any improvement, both cats seem miserable, or even one cat seems miserable, sometimes the best decision you can make is to say, okay, this isn't a great fit. Maybe we don't keep this new cat.
Right.
I don't recommend giving away your resident cat.
No.
That's not right.
It is not.
Yeah. a lot of shelters and rescues will let you do a foster or a short-term adoption to see if it'll work out. And so you can do that. A lot of people are foster fails and they foster cats and then end up, their cats get along, so they end up keeping them, and that's great.
Yeah, that's great.
But you're doing your cats a disservice by really trying to make them just kind of suffer through an environment that might not be right for one or both of them.
Yeah.
So sometimes
it's an important point.
Yeah. Sometimes that is the right decision to make, is to say, yeah, this isn't working out. We're not happy. The cats aren't happy. And if you bring that cat back, they can find a much better home, a more suitable home. Maybe it's not a right fit for a person or an animal or whatever the case may be. You're not a bad person for making that decision. And in fact, that's a hard decision to make. And it's one that you probably made out of love.
Yeah.
And so,
absolutely.
It's hard. And I respect that decision. Yeah.
Yeah. Great point. Well, Dr. Marci, thank you, as always, for being with us here today. Where can people find out more about you and what you're up to and how they can get in touch with you?
Thanks for asking. So my business is called Feline Behavior Solutions, and you can find my website at felinebehaviorsolutions.com. You can email at Marci, that's Marci, at felinebehaviorsolutions.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter.
All over the place.
Even though Twitter, I get disgusted and I hardly ever use it.
Same.
Yeah, I've been unfortunately kind of avoiding social media lately, just because I can't.
Nobody can blame you. Nobody can blame you. And why would you? You don't even have to go to social media to look at cute animals. You got them all over the place. So
it's true. I do have a YouTube channel as well with some videos talking about cat aggression, food puzzles, why you shouldn't toilet train your cat. That kind of thing. So yeah, I'm out there. Look me up.
We'll link to all your stuff for sure. Okay. Thanks again, Marci. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Mia. It's been great talking with you.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for listening. If you've got a question for Dr. J that you want him to answer on an upcoming show, head over to preventivevet.com/pauseandplay and fill out our form. You'll also find our podcast archive, as well as links to everything that we discuss on the shows. While you're there, sign up for our newsletter, which includes tips, alerts, and we even made sure to include some cuteness. It's a treat delivered to your inbox every other week. You can subscribe to Pause and Play with Dr. J on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and iHeartRadio. We'll talk to you again soon.